it's Alexa. Are you prepared for a disaster? Are you prepared to be quarantined for 2 weeks to avoid coronavirus? Well, I'm not really either, but I'm trying to be. And I have made a list, which I'm going to share with you, of things that I have shopped for to prepare our family to have at least 2 weeks to 4 weeks worth of food, medicine, first aid, and emergency supplies. So let's go along and see what I've done and share our knowledge so that we can all be prepared. Here's the list. Okay, so this is my sort of larder area where I have a lot of my big staples, and so we'll start here because this is where I'm storing really big bags of things. My flour, my rice, my beans, and some of my water, as well as first aid supplies, some medicine, and some emergency preparedness stuff. So my list is organized by category, but in this video we'll kind of go by the area. Continuing on, like I said, this area contains different things, both food staples in large bags and also some other types of supplies. Like I said, here's the bread machine. We have some first aid. This is a small first aid kit with just really just kind of bandages and some small supplies. There's obviously more in the bathroom. There are a bunch of medicines in here, and so if anybody in your house needs regular prescription medicine, make sure you have extras of that, or any kind of chronic conditions. Make sure you have all your supplies, but these supplies are right here. And then down here, I have some emergency supplies, such as some N95 masks, not very many. In fact, looks like, I think there's just one now in here, so there's another one that somebody has used and taken back out of the container, so I should put it back in the container. Then I have a crank radio, and I have a crank radio, I have batteries, I have one candle, we need more candles, I have a transistor radio, this radio works, then I have a crank flashlight and a battery flashlight, and like I said, we need more candles. This flashlight is kind of neat though. On this side of the kitchen, we have more supplies. I have all my canned goods over here, and one of the things that I say in my list about food is, so you want I've got, these are by category, so you want baking supplies, so that would be things like sugar, cocoa, flour, iodized salt, spices. You want your staples, which are things like rice, beans, lentils, grains, oats. Oh, oats. Love oats. And I have been eating a lot of oats, so I've been getting these 10 pounds of oats, but I could actually buy more than this, and I would eat it. So I've been going through that. This is also a large thing of oil, cooking oil, and then we have also 10 pounds of potatoes here. Keep your potatoes in the dark so that they don't go green, which is poisonous. Popcorn. This is a great one, popcorn, and we've got lots and lots of popcorn. Brown rice, brown sugar, but I also have, this is something I really recommend for a disaster. Chia seeds are extremely packed with protein. They're very high calorie actually. We've got bran, even more popcorn, peanut butter, honey, jam, pickles, mayonnaise, canned and frozen vegetables, canned soup and chili, and I have 12 cans. I don't know if you can see it. They're way up at the top there, but I've got 12 cans of Denison's chili because my son likes to eat that. Again, only buy things that you're going to actually eat. Don't buy things that are gross that nobody's going to eat because you're just wasting your money. I don't think you should buy something not too tempting, but also not something that's going to be good. Also condensed and evaporated milk. Evaporated milk is a really nice one to have, because, for your coffee and things like that. For vegetables, you want your root vegetables like your potatoes, which you store in the dark, carrots, turnips, beets, celery possibly. Dried fruit, do some raisins. I've got raisins here. Another large thing of raisins. This is 2 pounds of raisins. Prunes you could have, I don't have any. Cranberries or trail mix. Stimulants, you want your coffee. or tea or cocoa mix. Or here's an idea, how about caffeine pills? I actually think I might get some caffeine pills, because let's say you're completely out of coffee, you know, caffeine pills would be convenient, and you just have them on hand. Alcohol, if you drink. I don't personally drink, but some people do. Protein, very important. You need your canned tuna. You could also have canned salmon or canned chicken. Black beans, obviously, or beans, are another form of protein. You could use protein powder. I don't have any. Silken tofu, I believe, is not something you have to refrigerate. I don't have any. Also powdered milk. I did get some powdered milk for, let's see. Yeah, I got some powdered milk. I also got, like I said, tomato sauce, extra, baking soda, extra noodles, things like that. Let's see, what else? Butter. We have lots and lots of butter, and I get butter. These are actually 3 pounds, 3-pound blocks. They're cheaper, and we go through a lot of butter because we bake a lot. Also, if you're going to be making bread, you're going to want, this is bread machine yeast. Your condiments, things like ketchup and all that good stuff. Shortening is a good thing to possibly have on hand, just because shortening basically is pretty chemical, and it doesn't tend to expire, so it'll last a really long time. And you do need oil in your diet. So we already talked about the water at the beginning. You might want to have dehydrated foods, but I don't think we currently have any. We might have something. I don't think we do. Very important, have your pets. Don't forget your pets. And so I got an extra bag of dog food and an extra bag of chicken food. Obviously, if you've got fish or cats, you might want to think about their bedding as well. So chickens, I need cedar bedding. Fish also need certain supplies. So a couple things that I don't recommend things like ramen, soda, processed foods, or any kind of drinks, you know, processed drinks, Gatorade, anything like that. I don't think you need it. Gatorade maybe, but you could just make all that, and you'd better off have water, have sugar, have some salt. There, you just made your electrolyte drink. Candy, I would say no. Protein bars, I'm not a big fan of protein bars, or MREs, meal ready to eat. But I don't know, I've never really tried a new one of those, so I don't know what they taste like now. And also, I would say things like cereal or Pop-Tarts, think just all those processed foods are really not that great for a couple reasons. One of the reasons is, too, you may, I mean, in my case, if I had cereal on hand, my kids would eat it right away. Okay, so we're done with food, and you know, they say you should have 2 weeks of food. I would say prepare for 2 weeks to 4 weeks of food. I really don't know how many weeks of food we have, but we do have a lot, considering that most of us overeat. I know we have a lot of food here. Okay, so now we're on to first aid. As I described, you're going to want your prescription medicine, any ongoing conditions, supplies for those things like diabetes, things like that. Pet medicine is another good thing to have. Bandages, antibiotic cream, ibuprofen, which is Advil, cold or cough medicine. A first aid manual is very useful to have. Disinfectant. So this is a big one, and people have been going crazy in the stores, right? Buying hand sanitizer. Well, first of all, just regular soap, it works fine, and just remember to really fully soap your hands and use a fingernail brush to brush your fingers, everything. But for disinfectant, 70% isopropyl rubbing alcohol. This is an antiseptic. This will kill coronavirus. It will kill a lot of things. Hydrogen peroxide, also an antiseptic, will also kill things. This is actually not great, as I understand it, to put on wounds. For many years I was taught that it was, but I think that it's actually not the greatest for wounds, because I think it kind of does damage to the skin or to the areas that are trying to heal up. But certainly it's better than nothing. So I also actually found this because I was going around the house spraying doorknobs. And you can call me crazy, but hey, I've got 2 kids in school. So they're, and I'm, you know, out and about traveling and everything. So when we're bringing, and I was just at the post office and the DMV. So when we're in these public places, we're surrounded by germs, and they're on our hands, and what do? We touch the doorknobs. So I went around and I sprayed the doorknobs with this is glass cleaner, but reading it, and I don't recommend buying this. It's just that my husband bought it a couple years ago, and I'm still working my way through it. But it says somewhere here that it is ethyl alcohol. So ethyl alcohol is a disinfectant that will kill coronavirus. And ethyl alcohol, I believe, is what is in a lot of the hand sanitizers. So you can also make your own hand sanitizer gel, mixing rubbing alcohol with aloe vera gel. Purchased aloe vera gel, you could put it in a little container, boom, you've got yourself your hand sanitizer. A lot of the antibacterial stuff, you don't need that. You can also use hot water, but hot water and soap. You do need soap. Soap will kill the coronavirus. Gloves would be good to have. We don't really have them. And then masks, as we know, would have been good to have before all this happened. I was thinking about buying some this winter because we've had fire season and people have been walking around with masks for a long time. Unfortunately, in a world of global warming, it may become even more common to have fire, air quality masks, breathing masks, or alternatively, hey people, let's stop driving our cars. That's another option. But in any case, moving on to emergency supplies. I showed you my crank radio. We have flashlights, batteries. I do not have this, but a generator would be great. And you know, everybody thinks about a gas generator or a solar generator, but there are places that only use hand crank generators. And you can get a hand crank generator about this size, and for about a half an hour of vigorous cranking, and you usually have to attach it to something hard so that you can really do it. I read somebody was saying they fill up a large lithium battery, and that's enough to power a laptop or something. So one of those really big brick lithium batteries. So I actually think that's a really nice plan. I don't currently have that, but you can still fill up your if you have little, cell phone batteries and things like that, you can fill those up just to have them on hand. You might want to have gasoline in a portable tank. However, with a lot of things like this, you always have to think, do I want the risk, right? Because that's a fire hazard. It's a hazardous waste. You might want to, but it could be good if you need to get the heck out to be able to have an extra tank of gas on hand. You might want to have a fire extinguisher, but the same thing applies. Those need to be maintained. So I personally don't have any fire extinguishers, and I don't have any gas either, although I do have a gas can. Candles and matches, very important. Tools, things like your Leatherman, a gas shutoff wrench. You might want to have a camp stove and fuel for it. Rechargeable LED lamps. If you know where to get one, please let me know, because a lot of them seem like they might be garbage. But some rechargeable, maybe an LED lamp that you could plug in, and then or solar charge and then use it all night. That would be great. But a lot of them I've read, they don't really light up for very long, and so they're just kind of a novelty item. So no point in buying it if it doesn't work. Having a go bag could be good. My son has a go bag. I don't really have a go bag. My boys, because they're boys, they think about weapons. I don't necessarily think about weapons, but I'll tell you what is a really great weapon. It's right here. This is a cast iron frying pan. Something like this, boiling water, boiling oil, even spray bottles of chemicals, all those things are very good weapons. Oh, also dogs. Dogs, one of the best weapons you got. All right. Last thing, water purification tablets or filters. We have something similar to a Life Straw, but it's a different brand. But I have one of those. And you might want to get iodine tablets or things like that, but you can always boil your water or filter it. Alrighty, moving on to toiletries. I just bought these, and they actually are kind of cute. We'll see how long they last. It's a 10-pack of biodegradable or bamboo toothbrushes, which is actually a really smart idea and they come packaged in these little paper packages, which is nice. Of course, the bristles, I believe, are nylon. It says BPA-free nylon. But certainly that's less plastic than, and this was a reasonable price. I think it was like $10, which is very reasonable because $1 a toothbrush actually. So we'll see how long they last. The toothbrushes feel great. I've been using them. And so you probably want toothbrushes and toothpaste, although you can always use baking soda for that. Sunscreen, a really important thing to have. Floss. Soap. I mean, everybody's going to need soap, so make sure you have soap. And one of the funny things here in the US is the run on toilet paper. Everybody's been buying toilet paper. And the funny thing is, I guess the world is kind of divided. And I didn't really never thought about this, okay? But you don't have to use toilet paper. About half the world does not. They actually use water, either a bidet type bottle or even just a mug of water, and then they just kind of soap and wipe themselves off, and then they dry themselves off with a towel. So I actually thought I'm gonna maybe give it a try. We'll see. I mean, the drawing part, that's kind of weird because then you got to keep a towel around just for that part. But it is true that using toilet paper it's a modern invention. Well, as is going to the bathroom in nice fresh water, right? That's also modern. Okay, moving on. Last two categories, and really just last one because a very final category. I don't really have much information there, but for papers. Again, I don't really have this put together, but at least I know where my papers are. But anyway, you might want to have a fireproof folder with your birth certificates, deeds, marriage certificates, passports, things like that. Although there are some services where you can put these things online, pictures of these things online. Is that a good idea? Is that not a good idea? You be the judge. I mean, they're reputable services, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're any safer in the cloud than anything else, right? Cash. Now, I don't have any cash right now, but some people would say you should have $500 cash or $1,000 cash or at least $100 cash. I don't know. I do think some cash would be smart because if it's really in a bad situation, or you just, let's say all the stores are closed and you can't get money out of the ATM. I don't know. I think some cash could be useful, but I don't have any right now. An evacuation or meetup plan. Oh, I would like to do that. I don't have it. Phone tree, same thing, good thing to do. But even if you don't have a phone tree figured out, just a printout of, and I did this years ago when my children were smaller, and I used to leave it for the babysitter, but I haven't done it in a couple of years. A printout with emergency phone numbers and the phone numbers of everyone in your family and addresses, mailing addresses. Also printed maps. What if our devices aren't working? Printed maps can be very useful. And printed out instructions or recipes, anything that you are going to need instructions for. So you might even want to put together sort of a disaster binder with some of this information in it. So that's really my last area was papers. And then after that, I put in clothing, and that would be things like weather specific gear, or clothing for your children if you have children, or anybody in your family. But that's sort of a whole other area. This is sort of being prepared to shelter in place primarily. Although one thing I do think people do is they'll get in their car and drive somewhere without the appropriate clothing on, assuming that their car is going to get them from point A to point B, and something bad could happen and you're in a snowstorm somewhere and you're not dressed for it because you assumed you were going to go through the mountains and get to the other side. So always sort of thinking about, well, what could happen? Do I have at least the right layers of clothing for this particular situation? Shoes also very important. So that's it. That's my whole list. Let me know what you think, and what item are you buying? And like I said, I really am interested in maybe LED lights and maybe some rechargeable batteries or some kind of small generator or hand crank generator. I even looked into bike pedal generators, but almost it seems like that's something that's really been kind of abandoned and there aren't really good ones for that. So another thing is possibly solar generators, small solar generators, just to be off grid, because that's something that we've experienced in the past year as well. Our utility has been cutting off power periodically because of the fire danger. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let's all wash our hands. Let's all be safe. Let's nip this global coronavirus problem in the bud. And if you are in any way suffering, I hope you get better soon. Let's all stick together. Thanks for watching. Bye.